Welcome to the Flatsome 3 training. This is an updated video of the Flatsome Basics overview. We'll be going over the essential features of Flatsome, what it can do, what it can't do, and how to use the essential features and to make things work for you starting out. So jumping straight in, you can think of Flatsome as having three main areas. One is the advanced options. This has some very nerdy settings you can set, some stuff that isn't in the customizer, but can be rather useful, and they call it advanced, but just consider it as extra options if you want to enable this or disable these types of things. And we'll get to these options in just a minute. Number two is the customizer. This is standard to WordPress. Of course, the Flatsome theme, they have added their own things in here. A lot of great options, and we'll be going over a whole lot of these today. And then the third one, the place you'll probably be spending most of your time in, is the UX Builder. The UX Builder has a few components to it. It has rows, banners, sections. It has pre-built styles and all those fun things. And we'll be going over that as well as an overview. So it does have these three main sections, and they're both, or all of them, all three, are rather useful to help you build sites like this. They've built this, obviously, their demo page and Flatsome and all those fun things. So there's a lot of cool things to build here with all of these. So we'll first go over the advanced options, then we'll go over the customizer, and then the ever so useful UX Builder. So we've jumped into full screen mode, and in the advanced options, here are my two favorite settings that I spend a whole bunch of time in, is the global settings and the custom CSS. Global settings is where you can add custom JavaScript and jQuery and all those fun things, such as the Google tracking codes for Drip, ActiveCampaign, HubSpot, blah, blah, all those things here. I do wish they had a pre-body opening tag for scripts, because then you can add multi-part scripts, because most things have something in the header and pre-body. So that'd be pretty cool. But otherwise, I spend a lot of time here for short custom code. Anything further, I put into the functions.php file. And then the other place I really spend a lot of time in is the custom CSS. So instead of putting custom CSS in its own file, I just put it in here because Flatsome has this awesome section, and I don't have to run my own media queries for sizing. So all the CSS code, the basic CSS code, goes here. Anything for tablets and smaller goes here, and anything for mobile only goes here. And that's super duper handy. The site loader feature is, well, it's one of those loading screen things for websites. I really don't like them because you have a slightly slower website, and instead of reading the content that's already loaded, you're stuck with this annoying loading screen. I don't use it. You can. That's what it's for. I really don't recommend you do. The site search, this is Flatsome's replacement for the default WordPress search feature, which is yay okay, sort of, along with a live search feature. Live search means as soon as you start typing, it starts searching for you. Kind of, if you've ever used WooCommerce on the back end, it has, you start typing a product's name, it automatically finds it for you. It's one of those things. And it's really, really handy, so I recommend you use this one. And the placeholder is the little content that's in the search box before you click into it, and then it disappears. So search for products here, those kinds of things. So that part's pretty handy too. Next up, we have a few features for the UX Builder, and by few I mean one. So they don't have any. Well, they don't really have any options for this in the advanced features. All this is the pre-built styles. So if you want to add some pre-built sections, rows, grids, this is what this is for. So it's essentially their template library. Enable or disable. That's it. Lazy loading, think of this as some speed optimization things where instead of loading it all up front, it loads it as needed, which is pretty handy. So if you had some Google fonts, for example, is a great idea to load lazily, meaning first the website loads, and then upon needing this resource, this specific font, only then will it pull that resource so that you don't waste bandwidth on things you're not even looking at. So that's pretty handy. Same thing for images and banners and all those things. Pretty handy. This one is simply only for the Google Maps API. So if you are going to use Flatsome's map feature instead of another plugin or your own code for this, this is where you would put the API key. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. You can read about what all this stuff is here. It just allows you to use your own account for Google Maps so that it tracks through you and you can get useful information through that. Maintenance mode. Pretty handy if you're developing the site right now or you need to make some quick fixes without the public seeing. Maintenance mode, think of it as just the coming soon page. It doesn't have too many options here in Flatsome. There are better plugins and services for this thing, but this is a quick and easy one. If you just need it right now, just enable it, give them a specify a specific page you want them to see, or just a quick little text. I usually just show text if I use this one, but I actually use a specific plugin most of the time because those are a bit more comprehensive than this. But that's that. They used to have some custom fonts in here. They're currently working on that. And a few minor revisions ago, they removed the custom fonts feature because they are thinking of some new ideas on how to integrate this. If you're looking for a great way to integrate it, find some plugins. There are free plugins such as Google Fonts plugin. Seriously, just in the WordPress repository for plugins, when you click add new, just search for Google Fonts and you'll find a whole bunch of those if you want to add Google Fonts. Specific custom fonts, a good way to see an example of a good one, look at Thrive Themes and see how they did custom fonts. That part they've done well. Portfolio is a custom post type. What is a custom post type? There's a whole another video on that, but think of it as simply as just another type of post with specific options, its own categories, tags, and you can display it in unique ways, enable or disable. I mostly don't use it, but I have a client who's currently using it just to display some things in a specific type of grid without using an additional plugin. So they're displaying some data that's clickable into a specific product. They're essentially, I guess, using it as a specific banner grid with their own stuff. They don't have any other integrations here, so that's okay, but they will once they have them later. And backup and export is very, very useful, especially if you're migrating between sites, copying things over. I backup options a lot, especially not only via here, but also via various plugins. Backing this up is really useful. And this, transfer the theme options, once you have your advanced options set up and the customizer thing set up here, copy this, and it will copy all that information from your theme. And not the page content, not that stuff, but the theme options. It'll copy all that, the colors, the styles you pick, and all those fun things. It'll copy all of that into your new theme. So you'd paste it here, you'd copy this, and you'd click import on your new theme on the other website, and it would import all your stuff from this site. Very, very handy. So that's advanced options, pretty short and quick. So this is the Flatsome Customizer tool. It, of course, is built upon the WordPress Customizer tool, which allows you to edit, well, a whole lot of goodies, from the functionality to the style to how things are put together. The big and probably my favorite parts of this tool, though, in Flatsome and what they did with the Customizer tool, is they've done something phenomenal with the header. So as you saw, I clicked on the header on the left, and this little thing, well, I guess it's not little, this popped up, the header builder popped up on the bottom. What this allows you to do is fully customize the header with the drag and drop options. So here's my header 2, this custom content here. So if I want to drag that, let's say, right next to the logo, it's going to get right next to the logo, or up there in the middle, down there, etc. So and you have all these options that you can set. These are custom HTML, so this is just custom content right here and here. Header blocks are using Flatsome blocks for its reusable content, and these are the custom pieces of content, shortcodes, or as it says, shortcodes or HTML to add here. So for me, I just added a little thing that, as a test, thing that says start here. So this thing is pretty freaking cool because not too many others have a header builder, especially one that actually works as well as this. So that's pretty freaking cool. And you can have some really cool options as navigation, search options, buttons, checkout buttons. This is really freaking cool. And these, by the way, if you're wondering, these are just little divider lines. So if you want a divider line, see, it shows up. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but there's a little divider there. So that's pretty cool. So I love this thing. So feel free to play around. Each one of those also, of course, has its own options. Now you might be thinking, well, what if I want the logo centered and things around that? Now, the one complaint I do have about this is that you can't change the structure of this thing, of these rows, manually. The only way to change the structure is if you go to presets, and then you pick a structure right here. So this is kind of more or less how you have to change the layout, which kind of sucks, but overall still very configurable. So there's that. Now, each of the settings in the header area, of course, have their own little options. So you can configure the top bar being this area right here. You can set the height, colors, and styles. I wish we had a few more options, but we can survive with that. Logo and identity, this is, of course, the basics. Where do you want the logo positioned, left or centered? The description, title stuff, logo, sizes, and all that fun stuff. And there's some pretty good options for a lot of these things. So go through these things. They're pretty fun. It gives you a good amount of configuration options for all of this stuff. And like I said, this is one of the better ones that I've seen. So I'm very happy with this one. You can configure a lot of really good stuff. The follow icons I don't preferably like. I prefer the share icons, but that's just me. But those, by the way, these follow icons here are the ones right up here. So there's that one. So yeah, that's the header. It's pretty short and, well, it's not short, but it's pretty useful. So get to use it because you can do almost anything you want with that thing. Styling this is kind of the generalized core styling you want your site to have. The main colors, there's a lot of options for here. The main colors, secondary, success colors, or look colors, and all those fun things. That's here. So make use of that thing. I've been setting these up already, as you can sort of see some of the basics on this set that I'm developing for this course. So that'll be all done through here pretty much. The global styles. Like I said, they need to fix some things because they need to kind of organize this, I think. They don't have too many here, but typography was working pretty well. The only people who I think did it better than Flatsome is the Divi theme. They've done the options for styling and fonts really well. Flatsome could benefit from that, but we do still have some pretty darn good options for how we want all these things to look. So that's pretty cool. And custom CSS, if you're nerdy and want custom CSS, add it here instead of using another plugin, because these will apply the CSS classes globally, and that's really useful, especially since we can set for everything, for tablets only, and for mobile only. So that's pretty cool. An image lightbox, this is, instead of using WooCommerce's and any WordPress built-in lightbox, this is if you click on an image and it has lightbox enabled, it'll pop up essentially in a little lightbox where the background kind of fades away into a darker view and the image is in the front. So that's that. So Flatsome has its own built-in one. It's all right. You can use it or not. Then we have blog settings. I don't use this one too much because, truth be told, I'm not exactly sold on Flatsome's blog setup, but we do have some options, and it is very configurable. So you can set all these cool little widgety things here, and this is not even including yet what we can do once we're already in the UX Builder to customize pages and all that stuff there. So this is like the general core settings, the template settings. And you have the options for the layout, general layout, the archive, single post, featured posts, and all those fun things. I'm going to skip shop just for a second. We'll get back to that. This is the general layout of your website, as in what most things are going to follow, assuming you're not using the UX Builder to specifically customize a page. So this is what that's going to follow. Footer is, of course, footer. We don't have as many options as with the header. It would be kind of cool if they also included a footer builder. That'd be kind of cool. But we do have a few options for what we can do. And because footer, at least the way it's made in WordPress, the footer essentially runs off of widgets. So they've kind of stuck with that as well. Again, I wish they kind of did something like they did here, but that's all right. So we do have a few options. You can set columns, basic colors, styling, and things like that as well. The page options are what is the basic default page, assuming you're not going to use the UX Builder for that specific page. What is the default settings that you have for that page? And we don't have too many settings here, sadly, but we can set a template, and we can, if we want to show the page title and all those and that. Portfolio, I don't use this one too much. Think of this one as a custom post type where you can add something that's labeled as a portfolio and its own little styling and its own little setup options. So that's what this one is for. So think of it as a glorified post with additional options and styling. So that's what this one would be. You have a few cool options on how you want to style it. I didn't create a demo page for this one, so I apologize. But look at the Flatsome main stuff here. That'll show you a good demo there of those. But yeah, this is where all the options would be. You can set how it's set up, how the images flow, how the titles look, and all those great things. Again, I don't use the portfolio too much because I wasn't too happy with theirs. I've used my own thing, my own customized stuff. So, if you kind of want to stick to the Flatsome world, use that, and it's perfectly fine. But also in that case, remember to use blocks to help you kind of speed things along. And then we have menus. Menus is very simple. It's just editing the menus. There's nothing special here. This is, in my opinion, better done through the back end here. That's my personal opinion. Oop, that was stuck. Right here, that's my personal opinion. But you can do it through here. I just don't particularly like doing it through here. It's a little bit clunky and slow. And that's not Flatsome's fault. That's just the customizer in general. Widgets is customizing the regular old widgets, so there's nothing special there as well. And so instead of, again, I personally prefer to edit the widgets through here. This is, again, just the widgets through the customizer, and it's a little bit clunky in my opinion. Again, that's not Flatsome, that's just WordPress. Homepage settings. So this takes the kind of weird setting that is in the backend admin right here and under reading. So you can set which pages are going to be the home page and the post page. This is actually kind of handy to have in front because it's much faster than going all the way in the back end here and mucking about there, and less confusing. So this part's pretty cool. AMP, that's a little plugin that I have to speed things up on mobile. Sharing is how you want to share things in general, what kind of style you want. And this is not these ones because the header is the header. Remember, its own little special thing, its own little builder tool. But in general, there's this stuff, the share icons that you have, which I didn't configure yet. But you can set the basic styles, or you can replace it with your own custom code, and wherever you use the share icons shortcode, it'll replace it with this thing. I don't do that, and I don't need WhatsApp, nor Tumblr. So see, it goes away. So what options would you have here? And once you set that up, it'll be able to share through that profile. And additional CSS. This one, so this is a little bit confusing because remember we saw custom CSS back over here, custom CSS. So there's that one place. This one isn't as comprehensive exactly as this one, because this one has its own little builder tool and has a few little, it has more space, which I like space for coding CSS. So this one, though, would be CSS for everything, like the global CSS. This one, under Style and Custom CSS, you could have the CSS between the general, all the CSS, just tablet, or just mobile. So this one is a little bit better to use, in my opinion, and it makes things easier. And reset, of course, is if you want to reset all these options. So that is the customizer tool. Really do go play around with it, especially the header, the style, blog, and shop settings. And so the shop, though, you do have the store notice. This is if you go on a shop page, and I didn't put a link here, so I don't know if it's going to show up, and I don't think it is. Yeah, it's not. So that would be the message like right up top that says, this is demo store, in most cases 10% off, blah, 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 right? So that is what that would be. You can enable it, disable it. I barely ever use that one because for notifications like that, I don't find that functionality great. There are far better options for that, whether you use a Thrive leads pop-up thing, or well, actually any kind of newsletter pop-up or a notification plugin. There's a lot better tools than that one. Product catalog, this is how you want to display the product grid, and in general, the shop page. Do you want it to show the products category? So this part right here is the generic sorting from the back end of WooCommerce. But now here you can add stuff to put on top of the shop page and right in the middle of it. You can change the layout in various different styles. I've seen this one used a whole bunch, actually. This is used the most often, though. Even Amazon uses a square grid, so that's rather handy. Listings I've seen used mostly for kind of like courses type of things or events. So and you have a fun bunch of options that actually work really, really well for e-commerce right here, and some really cool setup options. And there were a few websites, by the way, on a quick short note, that I did custom work on, and these are all very easy to customize through the backend and custom CSS, just in case if it doesn't specifically fit what you need. But the options are here, and a good amount of them, and they're easy to hide. So go through these for your specific shop because it's really, really powerful. This one's my favorite one because this is where you can configure the single product page, and not many themes offer so many options to customize a single product. So you can stack it, wide gallery, left, right, no sidebar, and all these fun things, and customize these things. That one's kind of a new one. And this thing is pretty freaking cool because, like I said, I've barely ever seen a theme that has all these great options to customize the template without code for a single product. So that's freaking cool. Go through these things. You can align things differently. Flat. I love flat personally. Upsell. That's the thing on the sidebar. So that one's actually people have asked about that one. Do we have a product left column? So let's just go with this. So this one, by the way, the upsell, because people have asked before. Oh, they don't have it here. So what happens in Flatsome is if you have a sidebar, the related or the upsell products, so there's two things. You may also like is one of them. So there's that. But also in the default layout on the right side over here, so to the right of this, there is also yet another sidebar that populates the either related products set for that specific product. And well, related products is set automatically, but product you specifically set to be an upsell or a cross-sell, which show up by default on the right side. But you can also set up the as you may also like type thing. This is manually set, while related products is automatically set in the WooCommerce backend with its own little algorithm. But the you may like is you set on a per product level, so that's pretty handy. And this is how you can customize it right here. And it's extremely useful. I love it. And you can also add some custom text before and after the button, which is also very useful. You won't believe how many times I've been customizing things to add stuff right above this thing, or extra stuff that will go right above this thing and below this button. A lot in e-commerce, a lot. So this is extremely, extremely useful. The My Account page. Personally, I just think that WooCommerce doesn't do the My Account page well, but you can customize a few things in Flatsome for the My Account page and change the style a little bit here. So there's those things. You can play around with it if you'd like. Cart and checkout, pretty simple. You just have a few little options, and these things are new. New floating field labels that kind of float around and look nice and modern and all those things. This one is one of my favorite new ones, is that you can move the email first. So at least for the checkouts that I do, I require registration. You don't have to, of course, but if you are, I love moving it first, because then it kind of ingrains in the person that, hey, you have to have your email in order to purchase, and it kind of encourages them to, of course, check out. So that's kind of handy. And some basic content stuff. Again, not many themes have it this nicely configurable that you can add so much content throughout. So that's pretty freaking cool. Payment icons, love it or hate it. I find it okay, but you can set these things here. So let's disable Visa to show you. See, and then Visa is going to go away. I keep these things enabled. One of my clients wanted these things, but they didn't have cash on delivery. Well, neither do I. But they had Amazon, PayPal, Apple Pay, and a few others enabled here. It's your choice if you use it or not. You don't have to. It's your choice. On this site, I do. On our main website, I believe we don't. And on our Academy site, I think we also don't, only because I didn't see a need. But if you want it, it's there. It is essentially a reusable block. So if you're going to use this, the short code for displaying this again, it's going to use these settings from here. And product images are the product images sizes. This is also settable, by the way, in the WooCommerce backend. So there's that. And that is essentially the customizer preview. And now, probably the most exciting part out of Flatsome, the UX Builder. What we're looking at here is the current stage of development for the site that's going to be the main landing page and sales page and all those fun things for the Flatsome course. So there's not much here yet, but it is a great training ground to teach you what's going on with the Flatsome UX Builder, what's in there, what's not in there, and my likes and dislikes. First, I'll say that overall, I do like the Flatsome UX Builder. It is rather oriented towards e-commerce, but if you're looking for a super easy, well-refined, and a a builder tool, a content tool, a visual builder tool that has a great UX, user experience. This is not it. There are better tools in terms of a user experience. This one doesn't have a great one, even though it is very functional and is great for e-commerce like setup. So to give you I guess a pretty decent overview, let's start by walking through how this page is. Now, if you remember, the header is created not in the UX builder, but in the customizer, so we're ignoring the header. So here is essentially where the content starts. This big thing here is a banner. Banner is, think of it as the hero image, though it can go anywhere, of course. It's a clickable element with stuff inside it, generally with an image in the background and stuff going on inside it. That's a banner. We also, of course, in Flatsome, one of the big things is the banner grid, which is phenomenal for e-commerce and a little bit for sales, but e-commerce that's what it's generally best for. So let's first show you what the banner is. As you can see, I've made this one full height of this screen. This will auto adjust to the full height of the person's screen when they load this page. So this is a banner. This is one element, and inside of it we have a text element and another text element. So let's click on the options for the banner. Inside here we have the usual things, what we want to call it to ourselves, visibility and height. Height 100%. We can do change layouts over here, but 100% would be 100%. We can also use pixels. So 100 pixels tall would be about here-ish, maybe here, maybe about here. Anyway, point being, you could do pixels or percentage. In this case, I used 100% because I wanted full height. We have an image. What size? Large. This is a temporary image, which I'll change eventually. Color. Color is, if I didn't use an image, what would the color of the background be? An overlay. An overlay goes on top of the image. As you can see, here's the image. It's pure white. Can I click there? So here's this image. Big, pure... I can't open it there. But yeah, you see it's nice and white, strong colors. But I put this overlay on there, and that muted the colors. And of course, for this, and pardon this big screen, I've had some caching issues lately. So anyway, you can change the color, you can change the opacity, which makes the overlay see-through, which is what a lot of us would want in these cases. You can also change the position of the banner image, of the background, because we're just in the background section. You can make it parallax, and I hate parallax. You can give it the FX. I guess for Christmas I could use these things, but these are very resource intensive. I wouldn't use them for pretty much most things. There's just not much of a need for most people for these, but they're available if you want them there. Now you can give it a border, you can link the whole element, which is very useful in a lot of cases, especially if you're making a banner grid with ads, so that's handy. You can give it a video background instead of a regular background, super handy. And sound, for the love of God, please almost always disable sound. We don't want sound in these kinds of things. So there's that. And inside of there we have our text boxes. Text boxes are... you might be thinking, well, there's a text box and there's another text box. Why do I only see one text box? Because I have a text box. Let's open up this element. I have a text box inside the text box, or I guess technically a text inside a text box. Text box, think of it as a container for text. So I have the text inside a text box, then a divider, little thing right there. Then I have more text, and then I have a row. Well, that's kind of weird. Well, a row can go almost anywhere. A row, think of it again as yet another type of container. A text container is kind of specific because I originally had text here. Should have probably used something different, but that's all right. So we have our row here. The row is specific because I want to have columns inside that row specifically. So I have a row and columns. So I put each button inside of its own little column so it's nicely centered and neatly aligned. And then inside that column, I have my button for each one of those. So that's how that one works. Buttons are one of my favorite things to play with. We always use buttons, especially for call to actions, sales things, checkout, etc., etc. We have a lot of great options here. You can change it, the hover stuff. You can make it not fully expanded. In this case, this button, the expand section, the expand feature, I mean, expands it all the way to the full width of the container it is in. See how it's going? Hopefully you can see on your screen. It goes from this little left line to the little right line over there. I can't really see the line on the right, but see where the plus sign is? So that's where the outline is. So it fits inside that container. So that's what expand does. And you can give it icons. I don't like icons on too many things, but that's my personal style. You can use icons, of course, if you'd like. I didn't link these buttons yet, because of course I didn't make these pages yet. But eventually I'll link them to those things. You can give it some depth, essentially shadow, or shadow only on hover. You can sort of see it there. There it goes. Pardon the screen wobble. So anyway, there's that. You can set colors and all those fun things. You set these colors, by the way, in the customizer tool. You can give some styles, sizes. Larger not only affects the actual physical size, but also the font size inside. I chose larger because that seems to be a good size from everything that's going on in here. So that's just that. And we can set our own class. And if you're wondering, hey, well, where can I specifically change the color just for this button? Sadly, we don't have such options. This is where I was talking about earlier that there are some UX features I'd love that they'd implement, but there aren't. And there are better tools for general visual content building. This isn't too great. It's functional and it'll get you selling, which is pretty much the most goal. And if you really want to customize, what you would do in that case is give it, let's say, class name, my awesome class for blue-ish button. Of course, you name the class something else, and then we'd save the class, and then we make the class code for CSS, in that CSS section of the customizer. So that's how you would customize a specific button. You don't have specific color options like we'd have for overlay or color for the banner section. So that's kind of a bummer. But you would have to then customize it via the class. All right, so I've imported some demo products in here. These are just the demo WooCommerce products that you can get from their stuff. And so let's add some content into this page. I've reloaded it so that we can add some stuff. So I'm just going to click on products. What it does, though, is it adds it here, but as you can see, I can't scroll anywhere here. What I have to do first is select one of the presets. And there are a few options. There's a lookbook style. And I wish I could scroll because then I could show it to you a little bit easier. So let's just click default and then I'll show you what I mean. So let's scroll over here. So here is the product list. This, as you can see, is pretty standard, just like the regular old grid. Nothing really unique about it. Has a cool little quick view feature. You can mouse over and see the alternative image. Pretty standard. You see something like this on Amazon or pretty much any e-commerce standard site. And now here, the style here is not the same thing as the presets that we previously saw. These are slightly different styles and how it's going to look. Default is a little bit different than normal, which is honestly a little bit weird. Overlay is where this content is. It moves it up. Now it's going to shade the content. No shading at the top, but shading at the bottom. Vertical, label, etc. So you can play around with these things. I personally don't like this one. Anywho, there's a few different ones. I usually just keep it on default because I like the simple, clean, practical look, and a lot of things are following this look, so that's what you do. I also don't like slider. My personal preference is grid. And by the way, this is where the presets pretty much work from. They alter a whole bunch of these things to go together. You have masonry. Grid works, except I wish it were just like a regular old grid. So here's this thing. Row. You have a whole bunch of options. I don't use slider as much because I'm not a big fan of sliders, but I use row. And if you're wondering, hey, you said row, why are there 2 rows? Well, because columns and number of products I'm showing. So because there's 4 columns and there's 8 posts total, so it ends up being 2 rows. So there's that. Full width slider is like the slider, except full width like that. It's really, really weird. I don't use this one often at all for obvious reasons. So slider, you can use it. This is a little bit more Amazon-y if you want to follow that look. And there's that. And you can change the columns and animations for these things. I don't use animations. I mostly have that turned off. You can change the style, position of the bullets, and all those fun things. You can set which custom posts, which specific posts you want to have in here, and which category, or by tag. And then you can have some filtering options. So that's pretty handy. So there's that. Then the next one I want to show you, let's scroll down, is so we had products, and let's go with custom products right here. So unlike the this one's neatly styled, we have this so here's it styled Flatsome style, right? Here's it styled the default WooCommerce way. Similar, but not the same. So we don't know why it's not changing the columns. There we go. So let's change it to 4 columns. Let's see how similar we can get it. Yeah, it doesn't like 4 columns. All right. Number 5, let's do 15. Oop. Let's change that a little bit. So anyway, similar. You don't have as many options in terms of effects and styles. If you need something super simple, this is the way to go, truth be told. If you want more customizability, more options in terms of style and functionality, this is the way to go. Like I said, very, very similar ideas. This one uses one labeled WooCommerce, uses the WooCommerce default options with a few little shortcodes added in. And then the products one uses the Flatsome, beautiful options, styles, and configurations. So I would use products more often, but if you're looking for something super duper simple, nothing special, custom products. And these are all just variations of this, essentially, seriously. So I would just use custom products or that pretty much. And categories, as I said, is just going to the categories. Now, the part I really want to show you is, so text, let's add some text. Let's add it here. Now, so actually, let me just pick whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to click this button. That brings me back here. Now I'm going to select text because I'm adding it right in here now. See how it's highlighted in blue? So now there's my text right in the middle. And we have several options and presets. These are, actually I use the presets for the text a lot at least. We have lead paragraph, paragraph with a headline, paragraph with a subheadline, headline, headline uppercase. You have a bunch of good options here. And these are just presets. So how it has here is a headline with a subtitle. So let's open that up. And all that is headline, that is uppercase, and a subtitle. And then kind of just make it like the previous stuff with just regular content. So these are just presets. But those presets are very handy, truth be told. Now, if you're wondering, hey, why is this content all shifted all the way to the left here? Well, that's because it's just floating by itself. If I want it to be nicely and neatly organized, well, then I'm going to have to create a row. And let's give it just one full column. Click apply. And it's going to add that row here, right down there. There it is. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back here. I'm going to, because here on this left side, I'm going to click and drag and move this up right where I want it. And then that's going to move it up there. See, moved from down here all the way to right up here. And then I'm going to click it open. And as the column I had in there, right? I'm going to take my text element, click, and drag it inside the column. So the place you want it is going to highlight with a box surrounding it, and the item itself is going to highlight. And there. Now my text is how I want it, nicely and neatly aligned. And all of these, by the way, well, not all of them, most of them can be dragged inside others. For example, with the banner, I can then drag, if I really wanted to, I could drag this row inside this banner, and I can drag a row inside of a row, etc., etc. So that's how you play around with that one. Now, what is so cool about this supposed Flatsome Studio? What is it? Well, so remember how we had some presets when we clicked on a few of these things? Think of it that way. These are pre-styled elements, pretty much ready to go. And they have some pretty awesome stuff that is really useful, especially for e-commerce and salesy things. For example, you have a pre-made grid without any borders. You have a nice little ghost faded style here. You have a content one that's has plain content with a flat background, a very modern style, by the way, flat colors, and an image on the right. You have something slightly less modern. With a background, you have something with the snow effect. You have an image, a section with 2 rows, and one of those rows, or columns, I mean, has a image. So that's pretty modern too. So you have all these cool stuff here. And even you have pretty much fully made pages for you. So you click it, import it, and then customize your content. I don't use the full page layouts because I'm not a personal fan of a lot of these. What I do love, though, is the elements inside of these things. For example, I personally am a big fan of this full width column idea with touching each other. So let's click on a few of these things to show you what I mean. The latest shows you the latest from the newest ones they've posted to the oldest. But you can select the specific category or tags, whatever you want to call it, that one of these pre-made elements is in, and they have a lot of them. So go through these things. Grids, a lot of us love grids. I know I do. So there's a lot of pre-made, differently styled grids. Very e-commerce. These were, if I remember correctly, these were from the original Flatsome. This one I remember. This one maybe. This one looks familiar as well. That one's a bit new. That one's new for sure. So yeah, they have a lot of cool pre-made, differently organized, differently styled grids. That's pretty freaking cool and brand new. That's very modern. So is that one. We have grids, we have galleries, full pages. As I said, they have fully made pages for you, however way you'd want to. So pick some of these things, and all you do. So I'm going to pick, I love clients. So let's pick a client. So 2 rows. I'm going to just, no, this one has a graphic. So I'm going to click preview. What preview does is it opens a brand new page to show you how it looks like. Ta-da! Sweet. So if I'm happy with that, all I have to do is click import. Do I want to import one image? Yes. Why not, right? Let's import an image. It's going to do its thing, and my computer is a little bit slow, as you might have noticed, but it's going to import it. It's going to stick it at the bottom. There, sweet. Here are the logos. Well, the logos didn't import because there's no logos to import. But all I have to do is then just add my logo image and they would be there. See, here's that whole section it imported for me. There's the rows for content, a small little gap to space things out, another row for the logos, and then logo, 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 logo. Sweet. And that's how I use that. And I use the Flatsome Studio thing a bunch because it has a lot of good elements, so I don't have to build this every single time. And ones I do like, I like to save around just for my own use. And so that's the quick little overview of Flatsome. I really hope you found this useful and can put it to some good use. Check out the other new videos that are going to be coming up soon after this one to get into the UX Builder in more depth, explain each piece bit by bit. Not a big long video like this, but short little pieces to digest this nicely and neatly. So I hope you like this. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments and I'll answer them and create new videos of them for you. Thanks.